series before announcing there is amplification, and a professor who will introduce the poet. But we are presenting an amazing, maybe oppressive number of poets and novelists, story writers reading this fall. It's a year of academic economy, and our first move was to decide for the first time in many years to get all the poets on the workshop faculty to give readings. We don't have to pay them a cent. But there will be some very interesting outsiders too. Let me just run down so that you may notice a name or two and then watch for the day that his reading's coming up. First reader, George Starbuck. Second, which will be next Wednesday, Steve Katz, novelist and story writer, doing a prose reading. Most of the people on here are poets, and I think Steve is that and more. His first book just came out last year, first big book, called The Exaggerations of Peter Prince, and he has two more in the works for this publishing season. Mark Strand, who used to teach here and I think got his MFA here before that, will be here on October 6th. On October 7th, Howard Nemiroff, if you read anthologies, you know who he is, will read his poems and maybe a story or two. He's a brilliant short story writer also. On October 13th, David Ray will read his poems. He's on the workshop staff. On October 14th, George Garrett will read poetry and fiction. Anselm Hollow on October 20th. Frederick Will on October 27th. Jack Marshall on November 3rd, whose first book, Bearings, is just out with Harper and Row. Galway Cannell, who always draws a big audience when he's here. I think he's the best reader of poetry I know, and one of the best poets. Will be here November 9th, November 17th, Kathleen Fraser, Mrs. Jack Marshall, a fine poet. December 8th, Marvin Bell, whose book with Athenaeum is just out in paperback at $3.95. It's a beautiful book, but I don't know. And on December 15th, Paul Engel, who hasn't given a reading here, I think, in about 3 years. That's something we can all look forward to. Okay. The professor is me, and there was no one else I could ask. And we'll mention that George Starbuck is the author of Bone Thoughts, Yale University Press, White Paper, Atlantic Monthly Press, and various poems here and there in magazines, and has taught here for 5 years, and has served as director of the Writers' Workshop for 2, and 1 more year will make 3, to try to be a teacher and a poet again. And so here he is, George Starbuck. Now, I am pleased to find that I haven't read here too recently. It's a funny situation. There are a lot of old friends in the audience who have heard me read some of my old poems too often. Then there are people who've never heard me read at all, and I guess I'd better read to those latter and read some old chestnuts out of the first and second book. Technicians, is there anything I can do about that feedback, or is it worse to me than it is to other people? So, okay. That's a dumb kind of reason, but it's a dumb situation to be reading. And I think when I'm out on the road, I'm almost too good at hamming it up and playing jocular professor and inserting long remarks between the poems. And today, for a change, I'd like to try simply to restrain myself, give the titles, and read the poems, maybe say about when they were written. The title poem of the first book is called Bone Thoughts on a Dry Day, written around 1958 in Chicago. Walking to the museum over the outer drive, I think before I see them dead, the bones alive, how perfectly the snake smooths over the fact he strings beads around that charmer's neck. Bird bone may be breakable, but have you ever held a cat's jaw shut, brittle as ice? Take mice. The mouse is a berry, his bones mere seeds. Step on him once and see. You mustn't think that the fish choke on those bones, or that chickens wish. The wise old bat hangs his bones in a bag. Two chicks ride a bike, unlike that legless swinger of crutches, the ostrich. Only the skull of a man is much of an ashtray. Each owl turns on a dowel. When all the other tents are struck, an old elephant pitches himself on his own poles. But as for my bones, tug of a toe, blunt bow charge of a thigh bone, gondola squadron of ribs and the jaw scow, they weather the swing and storm of the flesh they plow, out of conjecture of shore, one jolt from land. I climb the museum steps like a beach. There on squared stone, some cast-up keels bleach. Here, a dark sea speaks with white hands. Another animal poem that I wouldn't normally read is just a versified dirty joke. It's not just that, but it was selected to be in the DI, so you might as well hear how it sounds. It's called Ab Ovo. Beak gumming my entrails, wings elbowing my temples, there's this bird once out. Suppose I just let crack and he rolls out the red neck, where would you put your foot? If he bows a backward knee, if he stands there woodenly, is this above or what? Lady who may be moist, liquid tongued, not voiced, with wattles on his throat. Word, this fabled long bird love is a strange thing. And this one's called Technology. The refrain line is two streets in Boston, including one that was made famous, I guess, by Henry James. Hardly passionate Marlborough Street. On Commonwealth, on Marlborough, the gold beaks of magnolia were straining upward like the flock harnessed by kings in storybooks who lusted for the moon. 6 days we mooned into each other's eyes mythologies of doom and dawn, naked to the Atlantic sun, loving and loving to and fro, on Commonwealth, on Marlborough, our whole half hours. And where our bloods crested, we saw the bruised red buds tear loose the white impeded shapes of cries. And when our whitest hopes tore at the wind with wings, it seemed only a loony dream we dreamed. Such heavy machination of cars and motels confronted love on Commonwealth, on Marlborough. They do the trick with rockets now, with methodologies of steel, with industry or not at all. But so, sweet love, do these white trees that dare play out their lunacies for all they are, for all they know, on Commonwealth, on Marlborough. Oh, a few war poems, since the latest ones I read will be political, war, stuff like that. War story. The 4th of July, he stormed a nest. He won a ribbon across his chest. We threw his arms across the rest, and in the chin. You need them in the chin to drive the dog tag in. The 5th of July, the chaplain wrote, it wasn't much, I needn't quote. The widow lay on her davenport, letting the news sink in. Since April, she had been letting the news sink in. The 6th of July, the captain stank. They had us pinned from either flank. With all respect to the dead and rank, we wished he was dug in. I mean, to save your skin, it says to get dug in. The word when it came was 3 days old. Lieutenant Jones brought marigolds. The widow got out the captain's old for a spin, a faster than ever spin, down to the lake and in. I'm looking for, can't find it. A tapestry for Bayeux. The Normandy landings in 1944. Two parts called recto and verso. See, I do need footnotes. Just the front and the back of the tapestry. Part 1, recto. Over the seaworthy cavalry arches a rocketry wickerwork. Involute laceries lacerate indigo altitudes, making a skyretin filigree into which, lazily, LCPs sinuate, adjutants next to them, ever sharp-eyed, among delicate battleship umbrages, twinkling in anger as measured as organ. Normandy knitted the islets and yarns, these warriors armoring, and dungaree, cable and axle tree, tank track and ammo belt, linking and opening garlands and islands of seafoam and sergeant, opulent fretwork, on turquoise and emeralds, red instance accenting neatly a dearth of red. Gun stations issue it, vapor trails ease into smoke from it, yellow and ochre and umber and sable and out. Or that man at the edge of the tapestry, holding his inches of niggardly ground and his trumpery order of red and his equipage angled and dated, he. Part 2, verso. Wasting no energy, time the old registrar evenly adds to his scrolls, rolling up in them rampage and echo and hush. In each influx of surf, in each tumble of rain cloud at evening, action of sea swell and undertow, rounding an introvert edge to the surge until, manhandled over, all surfaces, tapestries, entities, veer from the eye, like those rings of lost yesteryears pooled in the oak of your memory. Item, 1 Normandy exercise, muscle it over. An underside rises, a raggedy elegant mess of an abstract, a rip-out of kid stuff and switchboards, where amputee radio elements, unattached nerve fiber conduits, open-mouthed ureters, tag ends of hamstring and outrigging ripped from their unions and nexuses, jumble with undeterred speaking tubes twittering orders as random and angry as DDT'd hornets. Step over a moment, peer in through this nutshell of eyeball and man your gun. I'll just do one more out of this first book. It's called the title's so long of it. It's a sonnet, and I'll be reading a sonnet out of the second book that's kind of sequel to it. Now then, it's called On First Looking In on Blodgett's, Keats's, Chapman's Homer, Summer 1/2 Credit, Monday, 9 to 11. Mellifluous as bees, these brittle men droning of honeyed Homer give me hives. I scratch, yawn like a bear, my arm arrives at yours. All honey and we're back again, me the Balboa, you the Darien, lording the loud Pacific sands, our lives as hazarded as when a petrel dives to yank the dull sea's coverlet, or when, breaking from me across the sand that's rink and record of our weekend boning up on the romantic agony, you sink John Keats, a good surf fisher's cast out, plump in the sun's wake, and the parched pages drink that great whale's blanket party hump and hump. And this was a few years later for the same person. It's called Out in the Cold. All day today the seagulls cried. All day they cried, if not because of you, then not at least because I asked them to. I've got enough poor bastards on my side. I'm not a Greek. I can be satisfied to share a chorus with the shrill sea mew without pretending it's an interview with souls plucked from the shipwrecked as they died. I've got enough cold company. The guys you used to tell me how you used to see before I came along and you got wise, where are they now? In what capacity? Those dear, well-meant, unsatisfactory approximations of the eventual me. I'll do a few more sonnets out of this book, one by request. I'd only read it by request because it's too damn workshopy. It's really about that self-consciousness about what you're doing. It's called Making It. There is nothing at all pretty about death. One does what one can to make a pretty poem. One writes, in fact, of death. The grace of the poem does one the greater credit. Why waste breath in neo-Aeolian yodelings for love of the lark's rising? Give us the dead bird. Or if death gets too easy, take my word, there is nothing all that pretty about love. Not that you less than levitate me, love, or that your saltiness has lost its savor. You are the killings I could carol of if I were someone more than merely clever, who dared own up to his good luck and leave the love and death boys to their heavy labor. Sonnet called The Deposition. Irregular lines. The Deposition. His mouth hangs like a socket from which some noise appropriate to it has been disconnected. Evidence of real violence flakes from his working cheek like dried hot chocolate. Whatever he's been through, these didn't do it. The desk sergeant leaning forward looks merely sick, and the kid back from the corner with coffee for the boys just ill-complected. There is no malice in the detective lieutenant's frown, nor ugliness in the way his fellow officer shoulders deponent's weight by means of deponent's arm. Nothing here to alarm the hastily summoned license bureau stenographer who kneels, straining to follow, taking him down. Another sonnet called For an American Burial, subtitled For Doris, for John. It's in memory of John Holmes, poet who lived in Boston, taught there at Tufts, and addressed to his widow, Doris. Slowly out of the dust-bedeviled air and off the passing blades of the gang plow, and suddenly in state, as here and now, the earth gathers the earth. The earth is fair. All that the earth demands is the earth's share. All we embrace and revel in and vow never to lose, always to hold somehow, we hold of earth in temporary care. Baby, the sun goes up, the sun goes down, the roads turn into rivers under your wheels, houses go spinning by, the lights of towns scatter and close, a galaxy unreels, this endlessness, this readiness to drown, this is the death he stood off, how it feels. I've got some Baudelaire sonnets, more or less accurately translated in the book, and I don't think I've ever read all three of these at an audience, but I will. The first one is called Le Guignol, ill luck. I've seen it translated. To lift such weight, to start lifting, would take the heart of Sisyphus. The art is long and time is short. Far from any tomb where a cortege might come, my heart, like a muffled drum, parades, da-da-dum, da-dum. Many a buried rare jewel is sleeping where no pick or spade intrudes. Flowers are yielding their sweet secrets to the air of these deep solitudes. A very different tone in the original too. This one's called The Rebel, Le Rebelle. An angel swoops from his into the fool's paradise, snatches up the sinner and shakes him, saying, "You're gonna know the rules or else. I'm your good angel, understand? Get this, you gotta love no faces, mind you, the featherbrained, the half-assed, the off-key. So Jesus, when he comes in state, will find you spread like a carpet of sweet charity. That's love if you want love. No pat orgasm letting you off the hook. It's pure, it's hot, it's God's own fire. You burn for all you got." Exemplifying his enthusiasm, he loves the sinner more the more he flays him, the more he answers, "I cannot." This one unpardonable because French uses more syllables than we do, and I got through the 14 lines of Baudelaire's content in 12 of my own, and then tacked on 2 lines addressed to Baudelaire. It's one of the untitled poems from Splene Ideal, number 27 in one numbering. It begins avec ses vêtements ondoyants et nacrés. With her clothing undulating into 1,000 colors, even when she walks, you would think she was dancing. Or think of those tall serpents the holy jugglers weave into ecstasies at the ends of their wands. Like Algeria, like the flat blue over it, like the long swell and counterswell of the sea, she lets herself happen with an indifference free from disdain or malice, merciless. Those eyes, the pick of the polished semi-precious, that strangeness, symbol of anything, that blend in which only gold, steel, light, and diamond enter, inviolate angel, sphinx of ages, star, the very star her hangdog, dark companion, bad time Charlie the poet names Stérile. And again, by request, some more translations. These translations from the English, they're, before the adapters and modernizers get at them, I thought I'd get in first on Browning and Hopkins and William Blake. So, first is called Pigfoot with Aces Under Passes. The heat's on the hooker, drops on the lamb, cops got Booker, who give a damn? The kid's been had, but not me yet. Dad's in his pad, no sweat. This is called Margaret, Are You Drugged? Cool it, Mag. Sure it's a drag with all that green flaked out. Next thing you know, they'll be changing the color of bread. But look, chick, why panic? 70, 80 years, we'll all be dead. Roll with it, kid, I did. Give it the old benefit of the doubt. I mean, leaves, schmeaves. You sure you ain't just feeling sorry for yourself? And this is called Lamb. Lamb, what makes you tick? You got to wind up a battery-powered, a flywheel, a plug-in, or what? You made out of real fur? You fall out the window, you bust, you shrink, turn into a no-no, zip open and have pups? I bet you better than that. I bet you put out by some other outfit. I bet you don't do nothing. I bet you something to eat. And there's some nursery rhymes, the first of which goes, rain, rain, grow the hay, grow the weeds another day. If I die before I wake, skip it. I think I'll read a longish poem that ends the book. Written in late 1965. And topical, so maybe by now obscure. Poem issued by me to Congressman Abbott, Abernethy, Adair, Addabbo, Albert, Anderson, Andrews, Annuncio, Aarons, Ashbrook, Ashley, Ashmore, Aspinall, Ayers, Baldwin, Banstra, Baring, Barrett, Bates, Batten, Beckworth, Belcher, Bell, Bennett, Berry, Betts, Bingham, Blatnick, Boggs, Boland, Bowling, Bolton, Bow, Bray, Brock, Brooks, Bloomfield, Brown, Broyhill, Buchanan, Burke, Burleson, Burton, Byrne, Burns, Cabell, Callan, Callaway, Carey, Casey, Cedarburg, Seller, Chamberlain, Chelf, Clancy, Clark, Clausen, Cleveland, Clevenger, Cohelan, Collier, Conti, Cooley, Corbett, Corman, Crayley, Kramer, Culver, Curtin, that's Culver, all right, Curtin, Curtis, Daddario, Daig, Daniels, Davis, Dawson, De La Garza, Delaney, Dent, Denton, Derwinski, Devine, Dickinson, Dingle, Dole, Donahue, Dorn, Dow, Dowdy, Downing, Dulski, Duncan, Dwyer, Dial, Edmondson, Edwards, Ellsworth, Erlenborn, Evans, Everett, Fallon, Farbstein, Farnsley, Farnham, Fashel, Fagan, Findlay, Fino, Fisher, Flood, Flint, Fogarty, Foley, Ford, Fountain, Fraser, Frelinghuysen, Friedel, Fulton, Fuqua, Gallagher, Garmatz, Gathings, Geddes, Giaimo, Gibbons, Gilbert, Gilligan, Gonzalez, Goodell, Grabowski, Gray, Green, Grieg, Grider, Griffin, Griffiths, Gross. It's a good place to stop. It's a long list of them. Okay, this is a poem issued by me to them, each and several. Your poem is issued to you so you may burn it, and so it may cost you burning, and so it is issued to you. Burn it. Perhaps no more than a draft will have as yet been issued. There have been critical shortages. Honor the draft and burn it. Perhaps in your case only a symbol is issued pending the draft, pending completion of the true poem. Burn it. The issue is not in the poem, but in the burning. The poem is not in the symbol, but in the burning issue. The poem is not in the flesh even, but in what issues burning after the flesh and after action, the sonnet of tension, the absolute sonnet of quiet guard. Your hands are full with the plain hardware of it. Interval, dress, alignment. This is it. What's it to you what some junk sculptor later makes of it, or some songster? This is it. Uses are what you drill from this hard center. Meanings are what you burn off into slag. Cause is the bright and accidental spiral you plane from it to leave it what it is. Whatever sudden emptiness may send you whining like shrapnel through the bars back home, whatever you drag home to disremember bloodily and obscenely and at length, this will be something else. Head down, knees high, weapon at high port, move. Your hands are full. Quiet. A calyx closes. Heavy leaves, foreign to you in their simplicity of outline and arrangement, slowly lose outline and then arrangement. Their red-green and the transparent oranges and blues of a fragmented distance gone to black, a darkness is composed. Its black-on-black reciprocating engine of gun barrels cranks over once, fires once, and lashes back. Nothing is here the night so much imperils as loneliness. Nothing the breathing dark so much dispels. Your fix upon the known is on point flashes, answering to your own the way no pulse or persuasion has or shall. Poem? You want a poem? We got poems, baby. Bow, Bray, Brock, Brooks, we're the gunners got the gooks. Pickle, Pike, Pogue, Poff, Charlie seen us and took off. Roads, roads, rivers, rivers, give us the job and we delivers. White, white, whitener, whitten, nobody sets back the hard-bitten special detachment rangers. Peace, wanderer, patience at your hard labor. Later, almost in silence and by surprise, must come to you, if at all, the at night now wept for, the halfway around the world awaited, rising as out of a grayed horizon. Objective, this, slow outcrop of bone faces, baring of teeth and the brief space of a doorway in ashes, this. Cathay, Santo Domingo, some such name. The whole West waits to award you. You need only, but a figure out of your own squad bumps past you, rigorous, heavy-laden, and unimpeachable upon the work of confiscation. Others fan into the near distance, smoke obscured. Smoke falls back on itself around you, leaves you somewhere. A light truck motor labors, lone sound of a dark March morning in some St. Paul, the exhaust clouds lifting, neighbor and stranger lifting, as out of its own breath, rising. Objective, this, blackface, implacable, death his be-all and end-all, death his intense meditation, death his design. Your poem, when issued to you, will be enemy and response. It will be crabbed, wrought, strained, and in fact poetical. It will be your Ballad of Roger Young, explaining how at impossible odds and with what grace. It will be your song of songs, which is Solomon's, saying other than what it says, because what it says it cannot be saying, just as when the death's head in a doorway, who is, yes, a conspirator, he has spilled his guts, and who would, yes, have maintained his insidious cover until the leaves were taken off, says to you, I am dead, I do not move, not happy, not unhappy, I am dead, I do not move, not feeling, not unfeeling, I. And you, because you will have your moment, you with your flag and book. You, because there can be no such elsewhere, indolent in the lapse of unfurrowed seas. Hammer his words like gold and unfold them. I am soulless, relentless, remorseless, insatiable. I shall not be moved. Trophies. In the display case of post 10,000 and something, Algeciras, Georgia, your own eyes, half hung over, but all there, in a disturbed reflection over brass nameplates on walnut, Trudeau, Roundtree, Green, and with the names the years, and with the years half of a banner head, voices alarm, an arm upraised and pumping and cut off at the white edge of a bowling roster, 8 wide open-mouthed men straining their neck tendons in a curled, brown-stained photograph with whores, captioned Saigon, containing someone's brave tablecloth manifesto, get 'em Rebs, and one small face worthy of Lippo-Lippi. Deserve, sweet hell, deserve what your sick blood vibrates as these things vibrate to hear told. Didn't we get 'em? Didn't we take arms and slog halfway around the world to get them before they got us? White shirtbacks rising. And won't we get 'em? Let 'em show up now, calling themselves Americans, oh yes, selling us up the crick with their half measures. Dead men around a table, their dead friends, pin-ups of yellowed championship clippings, their national commander with the same vigilant, just, and just about fed-up glare as the glare behind you, as the glare of your awaited turn, your firm stride forward. Your poem, when issued to you, bearing symbols, bearing a date, will be neat, sweet, proper, and terminal. Need it be said this late that these which you read are verses, verses to celebrate me and my righteous posture, my facts and brains. Light them, they will at once incinerate. Burn as you will your poem, the burning remains. Here ends the document as issued and read into the record, but the gentlemen from Arizona, California, Indiana, and Louisiana, among others, having remarked upon the lack, strange in a document of this nature, of due acknowledgement to the supreme authority above us all, and the gentleman from Iowa having at hand a suitable hymn and recessional, we here insert in the record the following expansion of remarks. Mine eyes have seen the glory of hard work at least. I have kept the bore unpitted and the action greased, even when it ain't a fit night out for man or beast. What's your story, mister? Brandenburg, Louisiana, New Vienna, Minnesota, Venezuela, West Virginia. Get out of my backyard. I have seen at least the star shell and the muzzle flash. I have sabotaged for glory and a little cash. I have fought my jammed controls right up until the crash. What's your story, mister? Macedonia, Nevada, Himalaya, Oklahoma, Okinawa, Indiana. Get out of my backyard. I have walked my 20,000-mile perimeter. I have cruised at 80 fathoms and 1,000 per. If I didn't, I would get my wife and ravish her. What's your story, mister? South Kamchatka, North Dakota, Lebanon, South Carolina, Dutch Guiana, Arizona. Get out of my backyard. In the beauty of a moment of camaraderie with a godforsaken bunch of gooks across the sea, I shall die to make men safe in my society. What's your story, mister? Guatemala, California, Anatolia, Nebraska, Hispaniola, Pennsylvania. Get out of my backyard. You take off your insignia. You seek cover. Maybe they still come sniping at you. Maybe the outline of a bloused fatigue uniform is a recognition pattern. You take off your insignia. Through white wildernesses of rock to where white water spins from the snows, still climbing in a white silence, they cut to ribbons with their chatter. You take off your insignia. The crest holds you a moment, meeting of no color other than that of sunset, their distressed and automatic red-faced compulsive stutter. You take off your insignia. Escape is a simple melting into the landscape. What time is it? I don't have a watch up here. I do want to know that. 8:15. Boy, have I been cramming them in. Here's... It's possible to do something like that simpler, and it's possible to be too simple-minded when you try. Here's one I was trying to write yesterday. At least it's short. I don't know what I'll title it, but probably with some politician's name. So you were blind. I'm going to harness you to a big boom and make you walk in circles, turning a stone. Pray for grain. Why we followed you so long, I'll never know. Your bad luck, you had to teach us justice. You, your crusade, your motherfucking war. Whoa, look, here's a kind of a slow song. It's called Double Semi-Sestina, which is what it is. A small foreign car full of farm ladies from Jones County, Iowa, is driving around the streets of Iowa City, Iowa, asking at every open car window for the St. Patrick's Hospital. You mean Mercy? We know there's a Mercy Hospital, along with the Veterans Hospital, the Johnson County Home, and the several University of Iowa hospitals in the vicinity of Iowa City, Iowa, but none of us has heard of a St. Patrick's Hospital. They drive on. Likely they tried at Mercy. The county number is on their license plate. Jones County, the Wapsipinicon River, Stone City, Iowa. Slowly we think too late, psychopathic hospital. Somebody must have said psychopathic hospital. Oh, Dwayne, if it ain't worked out, if they've taken you off county and locked you up somewhere they tell you is Iowa City, Iowa. Sharon, if all you know in the world is Cascade, Iowa, and this isn't Cascade, Iowa. Mick, if the hospital two-step keeps overcrowding your saved vacation in County Clare, patience. The county womenfolk are in Iowa City, Iowa, asking for you and for the St. Patrick's Hospital. I make rhymed and metered poems because I like to do it, not out of any doctrinaire commitment to anything. So let me read this to show that I also like to do other things. This came out of I was in a taxi cab on a reading tour when I began writing it. Now it's called Ode in a Time of Industrial Diversification for Kathy. Wow. The world has a glass center. I saw the sign for it. Toledo, glass center of the world. That's what surprised me. I mean that it was Toledo. I knew the center was glass. It's only the surface that has this unfinished look. That's why we've got this cleaning and polishing operation going. There were bulldozers outside of Toledo working away. It's a beginning. First, we'll be able to see in. When the Chinamen at the other end get going, we'll be able to see through. It's like the completion of the first transcontinental railroad. Finally, we'll all be polishing it with rouge. What a great lens. Finally, there'll be one of us. I don't know how he'll get himself out of the way. I mean, when the light comes, what it's all for. What if he suddenly thinks he's Sonia Henney? What if he won't polish himself off? Me, I'd just melt in. You can do that when it's glass. They call it doping the mix with impurities. Goes into what they call a solid solution. Just the least trace is something beside the silica, and the whole ball of glass comes out in a wonderful color. Rose, ultramarine, turquoise, maroon. It's enough to make you lose your marbles. It is a marble. I know all about marbles, I said. This is my bag. Golly, if I could just be around to see it. Will it be a milky? Will it be a biggie? Will it be a swirl? Oh, get more bulldozers, Ohio, I said to myself in a fit of eloquence. Toledo is the glass center of the world. I felt like the stories my grandfather, no, that's not my grandfather, this is true. I felt like the stories my stepfather used to tell me about the native kids in the Witwatersrand playing some game with stones. Diamonds to knock your eye out. Ignorant nigger kids. Think of the first white hunter to get there. Wow. Toledo, Toledo, I warbled, even though this red-yellow cab company taxicab is bearing me away from you at maximum achievable velocity, even though my appointment is in Bowling Green, I shall push in the press for deployment of Project Plowshare. I shall lobby, I shall ring doorbells, I shall crusade. Instant redistribution of silage among the developed peoples. Riverbanks full of afterburgers. Boom! Does the work go slow? Executive gumption, flag. Toledo, I have arrived. I have arrived in Bowling Green. I am in the hands of my host. He is Ray De Palma. He is a poet. He is from Pittsburgh, steel center of the world. Oh, damn. Wouldn't you know? He is, it's true. He is from Pittsburgh, steel center of the world. And now that I think of it, I heard that from someone else somewhere about the world. Nickel and iron, he said. Molten, he said. Stiff with its own weight was what he said. All it would take is carbon, organic carbon, to make it steel. World, you're a damn steely. I used to have a steely. No one would let me use it. Too heavy, they said. That's cheating. You go home. Steelies are always pitted. Steelies always reflect. They give you back to yourself, only smaller, and center the world around you, smaller yet. Where am I? Oh, they leave you looking out at yourself intensely. Big nose, steely little eyes. Then I got tired of talking to myself like that. Myself, I know the world has a glass center. Myself, I know it's Toledo, built on sand. I keep going around. I keep getting to Pittsburgh. I never get to Toledo. I've been in Toledo. Even from there, I couldn't get to Toledo. I remember a great shed. I remember an urgent appointment in Chicago. Soon now, in the place of the bulldozer, soon now under the battlements and banners, rose, ultramarine, turquoise, maroon, On a wash of sand and a flashing of blades, Toledo, our dream and your dream, eyeball to eyeball, fused. This scraggy old, scruffy old, vermin-infested slag pile, this rubble in arms, gonna sing out loud and clear like a great bell, like the choir of all the angles. I'll get more dope on it as soon as I get home to Iowa City. Iowa City, the Athens of the Midwest. I have a friend there in the Pittsburgh Plate Glass Company. I still owe them on a set of unpainted wooden kitty furniture. When I was a kid, we lived in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio, the Athens of the Midwest. Or was it Athens, the Athens of the Ohio? Oh, merciful muchness, principle of redundance, light of the world, converted at every turn. The world is too much for us. Wait and see. I found out something. That's a good one to read when your voice is already shot. I'm not sure about the next one, but I'll read it anyhow. It's a long poem, well, sort of long, not quite as long as that one, and will be next to last. Then just for security, I'll finish with a short one out of the book white paper. This is awful. Like when I heard that McLeish had written a poem for Walter Cronkite to read on the very day that the moon men set foot on the moon, I just knew that, well, I was going to do that dumb thing. Well, anyhow, this is called Dizziness at the Spectacle of Tranquility. It's 1969. Soul, do you read me? Fine meteoritic dust augments the Earth's crust at the expected rate, but processes of late within the ecosphere steeply accelerate. We're blowing out of here. If you dig ferment, it's a vintage year. Nations explode while thin beams of electrons in evacuated tubes ballyhoo to the rubes, one more Apollo shot. You shudder at such hot ephemerality. Are you or are you not glued to the same TV? Let yourself go, you grudging SOB. Be swayed, as at Cadiz the melon farmer is, whose arms among his vines hang like fathom lines, as if that heaving net with its round floats were set to buoy him earthward from some deepest venture yet into a trackless, glum, and galaxy-infested medium. Be shaken, as beneath Broadway, with his teeth bone-dry to the wind of a subway labeled Ind, the newsboy is, his legs guy wires as he begs of them one nuance more, as if along that dregs and outcasts corridor, one captain of his fate still held the floor. Give in to it. Be drowned in Libyas of sound, each grain of it a clamor, each with its own mad grammar of contrarieties, as if a vast unease convulsed itself to build a white sound like the seas to which it could be stilled, its mountains leveled and its valleys filled. Stare into blankness. Find wandering in your mind old heroisms, each lonely and out of reach, pacing an endless sand from which again you stand off at full sail, aflaunt with silks of Samarkand, spice of the Indies, gaunt Lascars and Malays scrambling at command. Cellmate of mine, be shook, get taken, take the hook of any line at all that offers, the free fall of simpletons for smiles, cosmopolites for styles hopelessly recherché, is the free fall that whiles the heavy worlds away as of great moment, as of here, today. Or if the whole pretense demeans you, if your sense of light years and the 10 to the 10th power of 10 worlds you can never know escaping you is so exquisite, be a stone. Compose yourself of slow half-lives against whose known auto-destruct worlds calibrate their own. Die. Short of that, the trick is to hang on. The sick dizzinesses, the brief ecstasies of relief when the whirl outwhirls the whirl you're caught in, when some girl dances until she drops everything, and the pearl hangs in the Ethiop's ear like the poet said, and nothing stops. Or when the very gang of Dugway and Da Nang, the excess profits boys with their Chinese New Year's toys, run lunatic and turn into a great concern of spin-off experts, free just once, in one last burn, to match speeds with the sea and call themselves, why not, tranquility. That's pretty heavy. Here's back to translation in a way. A poem that came out of muffing a translation of Francois Villon. Just about everybody has translated that Ballade of Dead Ladies with a refrain in the commonly used English version, "Where are the snows of yesteryear?" And I couldn't do a new version of it any better than Lowell or Cannell, which is not surprising. So I wrote this about failing. It's called Ballade of the Mislaid Worksheet. Where are the notes I made last year on the flip side of a popcorn package toward my perennial sacrilege upon the muse, another near translation of Villon? But where is Harlow? Where is Norma Talmadge? Norma Jean Baker? Norma Shearer? What tantalizing curve or cleavage? Water under the bridge. Back to my dog-eared dictionnaire, back to my Fowler's English usage. But where is Mrs. Average American? Remember her, smiling at her discoverer, the census man, a personage at last? And Carol Lombard, where is she? And Mrs. Calvin Coolidge, water under the bridge. Where are the powers I bargained for, the Archimedean leverage to raise at least my own dead language up? O Edmund Spenser, where in the wildern woods of verbiage hath woned wended, and whither yore, and oomph, and eld, and yesteryear, and Bernhardt's voice, and Bernhardt's carriage, water under the bridge. 1,000 scattered cans of footage turning in unison yellower, a piece of French literature, and this, a petty pilferage on both, are yours a while and are water under the bridge.